Hey, all my Aries friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your March 2025 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Aries, I'm referring to Aries rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Aries sun and Aries moon, but the house structure will not be the same. If you don't know your rising sign, you'll want to go to one of the free birth calculators. You just need your exact time of birth and location in order to determine that information. When I talk about a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. And before I start, I just want to comment that I have done yearly 2025 yearly horoscope for all the signs. You can go there. It is based on rising sign and get even more detail about how the months are going to affect you. You can look ahead, you can look behind. It's quite a tool. I also did a Venus and Mercury retrograde video, which is going to happen during the month of March. I did it separately. They will be traveling together, ultimately moving from Aries energy back into Pisces energy and then forward again. So you might want to check out that video. But let's pull up the chart because it's a big month. We're going to see Neptune move into Aries for the first time in about 165 years. And we're going to see two eclipses. The first one on the new nodal axis will be the full moon in Virgo on the 13th. So there's a lot of action going on. Let's pull up the chart. Okay, so here we see this quite a group of planets. I think of them as a galactic summit where the planets have come together to really come together in some ways in harmony to recalibrate the way that we are approaching the Earth experience. And I think that this is indicated a lot by the Piscean energy. We see Saturn here at the time the sun is here on the 1st. We have Saturn, we have the North Node, Mercury, and we have the ruler of the house, Neptune. Mercury and Neptune are both in an opposition to practical and habitual perfectionist, the South Node in Virgo, which is sometimes so connected to the Earth process that it forgets or it ignores or it skips over the divinity that lives within that is so incredibly powerful and can support that process. The month starts off with Mercury in a conjunction with Neptune. This can have a couple of ways this can go. You could have really your mind could feel scattered on some level. This is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is traditionally a house of invisibility. It is a house that is deemed the house of self-undoing. It is a house where madness resides, where isolation resides, where imprisonment and mental challenges and it can be a very depressing house on some level. And yet that energy that is so challenging is also illuminating as it compels you back into your connection with the divinity within. And I think that that's Mercury's conversation with Neptune. It's already been visiting with Saturn and reviewing history and restriction and where there's been repression. And this is Saturn, I believe Saturn's journey through Pisces at this time in history is really compelling us to be enduring in creating a strong house and communication and a foundation with our spirituality, with our meditation practices, with our communications to the bigger part of ourselves. That is how we will see these changing times in a flowing way versus what feels as if, we're being pulled under. Also, I want to comment that Neptune is in the very last degrees of its domicile. Again, has not been out of this sign for the last 15 years or such. It's been enjoying this being at home, and now it's going to travel into hot and steamy, potentially your first house of Aries. On the first day of the month, we see that Venus in her detriment. Now, this is a technical term, detriment, meaning she's not happy in Aries, but I disagree with that. As an intuitive and evolved astrologer, I believe that Venus is very empowered in Aries. She just has to recognize her empowerment so that she doesn't express herself with the more challenging sides of the Aries energy, which is to be a ball buster. So here, as she moves through the Aries energy, she's going to start her retrograde at the Capricorn degree. And I think this is significant because she is going to think about the conversations that Saturn and Mercury were having, where there was potential limitation, repression, obligation, duties. And as she moves back in that towards her exaltation, I think she's going to be revisiting how she can integrate her everyday experience and her everyday obligations, as represented by Mercury, with what she wants to create for herself in a more dreamy and more closer to her soul's desires and intentions on this planet. I also think that it's interesting we have sort of what feels like a kite formation here. It's not an actual kite, but we can feel that the outer planets are in positive aspects to Neptune and I'm talking about Pluto and Uranus right now. Even Jupiter is in a positive aspect to the sun at this time. So I'm sorry, not the sun. Jupiter is in a positive aspect to Venus. Pardon she's in a square to the sun. I had to look at that real quick. A lot of lines going on here. But my point is that this kite kind of formation makes me feel as if this accentuates the Mercury-Neptune conjunction, asking me to take my kite and fly it high and look above what is the mundane, to focus on the future. So this is I think very powerful. All right, let's go now to the second. Actually, I'm going to go to the third. We see that Venus has gone into her retrograde and Mercury has entered Aries. It's still in a conjunction with Neptune, but as Mercury moves into Aries, these thoughts of the self, how I can express my passion, how I can use my skills. Mercury and Venus are having such conversations because normally one of these planets would be just moving forward, but Mercury is going to get all the way up in conjunct with Venus, and then they're both moving back. Mercury will move back faster. He will move over Venus again. So there's I feel like there are 4 different times when this conversation becomes very intense between what are my thoughts, how am I using my creativity and my connection to spirit, and how am I escaping my creativity and using potentially masking devices. Pisces rules addiction, and it rules, that time alone. And sometimes when we spend too much time alone, the monkey mind can start to go off and really disempower us. So this is a pivotal time to kind of be brave in our thoughts and reach for the higher vibrations of these planets. And I want to kind of emphasize for my Aries that while the planets are all orbiting our little Earth plane, they're also representing characteristics within us, like the fool's journey, as we as a soul enter these planets vibrations, and with where they are on the landscape of the wheel, we are given opportunities to make choices, otherwise known as karma. So it's such a powerful time. All right, let's go to Mercury has entered. Now we have on the 11th, Mercury is still direct, but it's in an exact conjunction with Venus in Aries. I think this is a very powerful day. I think this is a time when paying attention to my thoughts, paying attention to the people around me. There could potentially be things that come up that have to do with the women in your life, even potentially a sibling, a female sibling. But whatever it is, it's an opportunity for you as an Aries to show up in a way that is authentic to the evolved version of yourself versus the reactionary version of yourself. The nodes are still at 27 degrees, but they've retrograded. So that 27th degree is the Gemini degree, echoing again karmic opportunities to really think about my self-talk. I also want to offer this to the audience. As I speak, I become more conscious of the vibration of my words as they come out of my mouth. And as I'm aware of that, I realize that there's a certain song that my tone can make, or it can actually be very challenging and harsh. I think that's another aspect that we want to kind of be aware of as we move forward in this accelerated time frame. Let's go now. On the 12th, we'll see the Sun and Saturn exact at the 22nd degree, a bit of a challenging degree. I think this is really with this concentration of planets happening, it feels as if there's a lot of a slowdown before the gas up. Like when I look at the Sun and Saturn together, there's a feeling of the Sun combusts every planet, but Saturn have ruling fear and limitation, and the Sun ruling my ego. It makes me feel very much like I'm aware of my ego right now and my reputation. It has how it has been, and how do I participate in that reputation, whether it be favorable or not. And we can either capitalize on it and continue to build on it, or we can start to transform it into something that's more authentic to the Aries that is evolved and playing to the hero energy. I want to say this too, because your ruling planet right now is making a favorable aspect to this conjunction. And your ruling planet has been very much tasked in your fourth house to revisit old things, and old things that could be within your own personal emotional makeup, but old things that could be related to your home environment. And some of that, again, may have something to do with siblings or your early childhood experience, as represented by Mercury. And Mercury is about to retrograde in a moment, in 3 days. So this is pretty powerful. And throughout the whole month, I want to comment that Mercury and Venus are never more than 3 degrees apart. So this, I'm going to think about my money. I'm going to think about my relationships. I'm going to think about my beauty, my self-worth, my confidence, how people appreciate me and what I bring to the table. I'm going to be aware of my self-talk and how I interact with others. And I think that's the gift of the challenge that is represented by your ruling planet finally getting to go forward, and will again have an opposition with Pluto. So what you were experiencing in your fourth house over these last couple of months, as Mars has been in there, is really offering you an opportunity to delineate how you feel nurtured, and if you indeed nurture the self, you nurture yourself. Okay. Let's go to the 19th, where we will see the Sun conjunct Neptune. And this to me is, it's first of all, it's my dog's birthday. Happy birthday, Lucky. He's going to be 13. But this is an interesting conjunction, because literally we have the water. I almost feel like I see the sun setting on Neptune as if it's a sunset. And it's interesting too, because this 29th degree is the Leo degree. And the sunsets can be very romantic and very calming, and give you a sense of beauty as you watch the sunset. And I think this is an opportunity to really look at your own transformation, your own ego. Take a moment to let the part of your ego represented by the sun that edges God out. Allow that to let the sun to set on that and know that there's a new day. And I think this is further evidenced by Mercury and Venus is retrograde, and I just said they were never more than 3 degrees apart, and here they're 4 degrees apart. So I goofed there, but they're still in a very tight conversation throughout this whole retrograde. How do I take care of the self? How do my partnerships support the self? Do I feel a sense of value in throughout my everyday life and the connections with the people I interact with? And when I don't, how do I show up about it? Because I think that's a very key factor to shifting the energy. On the 20th, the sun will enter Aries. And again, this particular time of year is very powerful because the planets are visiting the world axis where there's new beginnings, new hope. It's the springtime in the Western world where things start to come from this hibernation into flourishing, growing, coming up. Okay, on the 22nd. Now we're fully into Aries, and the sun is in a conjunction with Venus. And the second degree is the Venusian degree. It to me is a degree where I am now really starting to. I want to take my power back. I want to start to take advantage of the fears that I have felt, the resentments I've felt, and then transform them into the tools that build my everyday life. The sun again is our ego. The Venus very much represents our self-confidence and our worth. I mean, we can look at our talents and our beauty and our partnerships. They support our self-worth and our confidence, but they don't actually create it. Our confidence creates those talents, those relationships, even our money. And now we have Mercury really offering us how do I speak? How do I think? Who do I interact with? When I was a girl, they used to say, your friends tell a lot about who you are. And as I've gotten older, I've seen how that's very true. So there's a whole revisit of all of this as we enter your birthday month. And happy birthday to the early born Aries, because you are also experiencing Pluto's sextile to your potential personal sun or rising sign or moon. So actually, I've got my south node is in Aries at 3 degrees. So I'm going to start feeling all of this. And as I've contemplated how that will play out, I've really felt like it was going to move me through the awarenesses I've garnished into higher vibrations of creation, where my dreams start to come true in the material rather than just conceptually or as I sleep at night. On the 27th, we will see Venus re-enter her exaltation, and she's in an exact conjunction once again with Neptune. These two are such good friends. They can spend hours listening to good music, eating good food, talking about, the possibilities, the potentials of life. And I think that that's exactly what happens here. We see that Mercury is just, not far away at this point at 1 degree, about to re-enter the conversation more intensely. And, the moon has now come into Pisces again. And I think that this is where we start feeling, because that moon moves very quickly, we're going to feel the emotional desires that we are looking for. What am I looking for? The moon is going to, while it is going to go over Saturn very quickly, I really think it's Venus, the conjunction it's going to make with Venus and Neptune and Mercury, and even the sun as we go into that new moon, which is going to be an eclipse. I should have gone back and talked quickly about the eclipses, which I'll do at the end here. But this is important because the emotional body, I truly believe that the most important planet in your natal chart is your moon. I know people talk about the rising sign as your perception, and it is important. It does dictate the landscape of the chart, but your moon is how you emote the experiences and the things that happen to you, and that's how you form your thought process and belief system. So here, this moon is really going to be hitting some important dynamics and deciding, how am I going to take the energy and move it forward? Am I going to continue to tell the same old story? I never win. I never get what I want. You done me wrong. Or am I going to start focusing on what I can create in a more tangible way? Meaning this: I know that I am brave. I know that I am strong. I know that I'm willing to stick my neck out and do things other people aren't willing to do. So now, am I going to spend all my time punishing the people behind me that didn't believe in me, or move forward towards my dreams so that I can interact with people who do align with me? And this is supported by Saturn's and the North Node even. It's trine to Mars. Now, there is the square to Chiron, which has been traveling through your first house. The Chiron is the wound that is, the chronic wound, the wound that just won't go away, no matter how many ceremonies and how many rocks you throw and how many times you pray, because it's not meant to go away. It's meant to be transformed into the gift. It's meant to, your willingness to transform your sense of self into something that is strong and powerful, but also has an awareness of the emotional body of others, makes you an amazing leader. And this is further evidenced by the sextile to Uranus in your second house, which has been transforming your skills, your self-worth, and your money, a lot of your money. I didn't mention this. This happens to be the fixed star Spica. I was looking at this for another video, and I forgot to take it off. But it is interesting that Mars is squaring this star, because this is the voice of the angels. And Mars is going to have to slow down and enjoy the process of meditation. And I think on some level, I want to offer this for my Aries. And again, depending upon your chart, if you're a busy, athletic Aries person, you can use your workouts as a meditation. Where they say you get into the zone, that's reaching a peak of connection with the divinity within. So don't be afraid to take advantage of that. Okay, now we go into the 30th. Okay, so now we see that Neptune has reached 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aries. Mercury has moved into Pisces, is conjunct Venus, conjunct the North Node. It's like it literally notes on a piano. This conjunction is so incredibly powerful and so incredibly, it's the beginning of the change. It's the feeling. We can see that Pluto is making aspects to Neptune, which it has been, and it's going to get tighter and tighter, because as Neptune moves into Aries, it's going to go up to the 2nd degree. Saturn's going to catch up, and then they're going to retrograde back. This is all really bringing transcendence of the self, transforming it from selfish to selfless, because it represents a pioneering spirit to discover the self as it co-creates with the universe here in the physical plane. So I think this is super powerful. Let me quickly go to the days of the, I should have done this earlier, but because I do separate videos for the full moon and I'm going to do the full moon first. I do separate videos. I apologize. I'm trying to do two things at once. I skipped over it. So excuse me and apologize to that. Oops. 54 p.m. Let's do just a quick look at the full moon that's going to take place on the 13th. We see that Mercury has not retrograded yet. It's stationed at 9 degrees in your first house. Venus is going retrograde. And the full moon is in a conjunction pretty much to the nodal structure. So this is going to be pretty significant in illuminating something. And I think because the sun reflects its light onto the moon in a full moon, it's going to reflect how badly you want this transformation and liberation from an old story that just has not allowed you to expand. You know, Saturn's Saturn in Pisces is very, very challenging, especially for those that are very earthbound, because it's demanding that you start to build a house with the part of yourself that is non-physical. It's demanding you build a sense of leadership, and you do it without the validation. You do it without knowing on the earth plane and through your five senses. You have to use your sixth sense. So this full moon is really illuminating all of this divinity within, the desire for it, and the history that has been built that has not allowed it to flourish up until now. Again, I'm going to do a separate video on this. Now let's go to the 27th for the new moon in Aries. This is happening at 3:57 a.m. Well, I guess I was wrong about the time. Do I have the day right? 3:20. Oh, 3:29. Sorry. My mistake. Here we go. Okay, I'm off by a minute or so, but I'll leave it be. We see the moon is at 8 degrees 59 minutes, and the sun here is at 9 degrees 0 minutes. This is our new moon coming together in the darkness of night. I find this to be a very powerful new moon because it's the last new moon eclipse. An eclipse here with Mercury essentially on the world axis is really, to me, a focal point. It's out of orb of the new moon, but that Mercury is giving me an opportunity to birth new thoughts. Mercury at the time of this new moon is giving me an opportunity to reflect on my self-talk that I have not acknowledged or even been aware of potentially by now, up until now. So uh, this whole stellium right here, and I'm going to include even Saturn here, is very powerful for planting the seeds of this new moon, to understand the self, to honor the self, and to understand that much of our service to others right now is to nurture the self in a way that is healthy, to look at ourselves as source energy versus looking to others to fill us up. Not that Aries does that very often, because it doesn't. Aries is very independent and very self-reliant. But now it's about building a connection with spirit as part of that self-reliance. So this is the month of March. I feel like there's so much more to talk about, and we'll catch up on that each week on our Sunday shows at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we talk about the week ahead's transits. And then please join me Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Pacific time, where I answer your questions, and we do tarot card readings based on your personal interests and input and questions. So thank you so much. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful March, everybody.